The Spring Statement, Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves.
This was not meant to be a big deal, but after the economic picture changed for the worse, the Chancellor's Spring Statement ended up containing major announcements on changes to government spending. And that's because, simply put, the Chancellor has less money than she thought she would at this point. And in order to avoid breaking her own fiscal rules, she has had to find extra money through cuts. And this is despite the tax bill remaining at its highest level in decades. So where is all that money going, and what's changing after the Spring Statement? Well, here's the picture before the changes in the Spring Statement come into effect. In 2024 to 2025, public spending amounts to £1.27 trillion, which means around £45,000 per household. Now, the biggest single component, as you can see it's right down here, is welfare. We're looking at around £313 billion. And when we open that up, we can see that £151 billion is spent on pensioners, £88 billion is spent on universal credit, and around £75 billion is on other welfare payments, most of which is disability benefits. And it's the bottom two of these bars that have been most targeted for cuts in this Spring Statement. Now, the independent budget watchdog, the Office for Budget Responsibility, has judged the net savings from the welfare package to be at around £3.4 billion. Now, that's a fair bit below the £5 billion figure that the government's own analysts thought their cuts would save. Another way the Chancellor is shaving off some of these budgets, like education, for example, is cutting administrative costs within the civil service. The government plans to cut departments' running costs by some 15%, and that will put about 10,000 jobs in areas such as HR at risk. But by doing this, the Chancellor hopes to save more than £2 billion a year by the end of the decade. Elsewhere, though, other parts of the budget are set to rise. The Chancellor has promised to increase defence spending by £2.2 billion from April as part of the previously announced plan for the biggest boost in military funding since the Cold War. However, that's entirely accounted for by shrinking the overseas aid budget. Now, a big chunk of government spending is also represented by net interest payments on the national debt, currently totalling more than £100 billion. And you can see that that's bigger than the entire education, Home Office and Defence Department budgets, and that is only set to rise. Here's the OBR's forecast for debt interest payments last October compared to now, and it's gone up due to higher than expected interest rates. That means by 2030, we're expecting to pay £131 billion. Not, let's be clear, on clearing our debt, but just on repaying the interest collected on it. So these cuts, though they will impact millions of people, will do little to slim down the government spending bill. And as Reeves points out herself, this is an uncertain time, with Trump imposing tariffs left, right and centre, meaning we might well see more cuts and more taxes in the full autumn budget.